Hello guys, this is a discussion video for ACCBP 100, specifically for the topic time value of money. So what is this time value of money? So the time value of money lies to the principle that the value of your money today may not be the same in the future. So ibig sabihin, in this concept class, it is believed that the money that you have now is worth more than the same money that you will have in the future. No? So this is the reason kung bakit we have to invest our money into something so that it will earn. That is to counteract the effect of time value of money. Kasi dito sa time value of money, ang concept na to, na yung piso mo ngayon will no longer be piso or the same piso in the future. So, meaning, kung meron kang 10,000 ngayon, mas malaki yun kasi you have it now rather than having it in the future. So, pag hindi mo ininvest yung pera mo, yung 10,000 mo, kung nasa yung kamay lang and hindi mo siya, hindi mo si spend, or meaning, hindi mo siya ginastos, no? So, kung nasa yun lang yung 10,000, 1 year after that, hindi na 10,000 yung worth ng pera mo because of the effect of the time value of money. So, it would be wise, to invest your money so that it will earn and counteract the effect of time value of money. So, on the point of view of the borrowers, the cost of using money over time is called interest. So that is why some economists call the interest as the time value of money. So the time value of money involves two major concepts. So first is the future value, and the second one is the present value. So itong dalawang concepts na to, we will be discussing this in detail in the next slides. So both concepts consider three factors. So when we discuss about time value of money, these are the things that we consider. So first is the principal. So principal is the amount that you borrow or the amount that you invested. So for example, you have 10,000, you invested it into, for example, nilagay mo as time deposit. So that's your principal, 10,000. So your interest is actually yung na-earn mo or the amount na kinita mo because of investing your principal. So, parang interest anak na ng principal mo. And the time period is the period covered, so, or the term of your investment or the term of your loan, as the case may be. So, this could be expressed in months, pwede ring, or usually it is expressed in terms of years. No? So, depende sa naagrihan ng borrower tsaka nung lender or nung investee tsaka nung investor. So, let's discuss this simple interest concept. So, since we're talking about interest, so, merong dalawang klase na konsepto or dalawang konsepto ng interest. So, one, it could be a simple interest. The other one is, it could be compounding interest. So, pag sinabi natin simple interest, this is just a product of principal amount multiplied by the period's interest rate. So, ito very straightforward. So, if you want to get the interest, if that's simple, then you simply multiply your principal times the interest which is, or the interest rate which is applicable for that specific period. So, to compute for your interest, this is P or your principal times your I or your interest rate. So, that's how you compute your interest. And then your total interest, that is your I, yung na-compute mong interest dito times your N or your time. Na? So, this is the time period. So, N is the time period. But for simplicity, no, so simple interest can be computed as, no, ito, interest is equals to principal times rate. So, that refers to the interest rate. And, no, i-multiply mo pa sa T, or in this case, ang sabi natin, that's N, na the time period. So, that's how you compute na simple interest. So, let's have a sample. So, we have here ABC company, no, who deposits 10,000 pesos in a bank at 10% interest now for 1 year. So, 1 year later, the 10,000 will have grown to 11,000. So, meaning, nag-earn siya, no, ning-grow siya by 1,000. So, your money grows by 10% of the principal amount, which is, of course, na 1,000. So, paano kayo compute ang 1,000? Very simple. So, you have principal times your interest. In this case kasi, 1 year lang. So, pwede na hindi mo na lang i-multiply by 1. Kasi yung time period niya naman ay 1 year lang din. No? But, if you want really, no, to have a complete formula, no, or in computing your interest, that would be principal of 10,000 times interest rate of 10% times the N or the period, which is 1 year. So, a total of 1,000. So, take note, class, no, that in simple interest computation, only the principal will earn interest. So, yan, no, very straightforward siya. Kung magkano lang yung principal, even if it will um, last for more than 1 year, so yung computations mo would be yun lang din, yung principal times interest rate, no, times the time period or yung N natin. Okay. So, the other one is itong compound interest concept. So, compound interest, no, it is the interest paid on both principal and interest accumulated in prior period. So, take note, no, that um, in contrast, no, or in contrast doon sa simple interest, dito sa compound interest, hindi lang principal ang mag-earn. Kasali na rin ang interest na na-accumulate mo in the prior period. So, the process of determining the future value when compound interest is applied is called compounding. So, in this time value concept, the principal again earns interest, no? So, the interest earned on the prior periods becomes part of the new principal amount in the current period. So, we have here the formula, no, to compute for your interest. That's equals to principal plus, no, the interest from prior periods times your applicable interest rate. So that will be your interest for a certain period. So let's have an example here. Now, suppose that ABC Corporation leaves its 10,000 deposit, no, for 2 years in a bank, paying 10% annual interest. So, at the end of the first year, so the initial deposit becomes 11,000. So, just like what we discussed, no, doon sa kanina, no, na kung first year, so of course, your 10,000 with 10% interest will earn, no, 1,000 interest for 1 year. So, during the second year, the firm will earn 10% this time on the 11,000 naman. So, no, pagka second year, your basis, no, in computing your interest will be the principal plus the earned interest from the first year. So, yung base mo, yung base amount natin for the 10% will now be 11,000. So, therefore, no, ang Kasi yung base amount natin ay 11,000 na. So, mag-grow no ng additional 1,100 yung interest natin. So, if you have noticed, no, first year, yung ating interest na na-earn is only 1,000. But in the second year, it becomes 1,100. Bakit? Kasi yung 1,000 na na-earn natin noong first year ay tumubo na rin ng 100. Okay? So, these are the computations. So, for first year, yung interest mo, no, that's 10,000 times 10%. So, that's 1,000. So, your accumulated, no, or your amount, their account balance will be 11,000. For the second year, yung base amount natin ay magiging 11,000 na. So, times 10%, so your interest will be 1,100. So, and the solution, so you are given here, no, that in the second year, you will earn additional 1,100. So that at the end of the second year, the balance of your account will be 12,100. So take note, no, that when we compare the earning power of the two types of interest, yung simple tsaka compound interest, no, the compound interest will give larger interest earning compared to simple interest. So, mas malaki yung kikitain mo kapag compounded yung interest compared to simple interest. So, if you are the investor, it will be beneficial for you. You will earn more if your investment, no, compounds or is computed, the interest of your investment is computed under this compound interest. No? Okay. So now let us discuss the future value concept. No? So kanina, sinabi natin na when we talk about time value of money, um, there are two concepts there. No? So one is the future value concept and the other one is the present value concept. So what is this future value concept? No? So future value is equal to the initial principal amount compounded at the interest rate for the period. So take note, pag sinabi natin future value, we are trying to compute, no, kung magkano na ba ang worth ng pera mo in a certain future date. So for example, no, you want to know how much will be the future value of your 10,000 now if you invest it in an investment that will give you a certain interest rate, no? So, future value concept, no, is important para ma-project natin kung magkano ba dapat ang i-invest ko ngayon, no? If, for example, you have a target amount, no? So, you will know na um, itong pera ko ngayon, no, when I invest it now, how much ba, no, or magkano na siyang aabutin in, for example, 5 years or 10 years, so depending on your plan. So the future value concept, no, or in the computation of future value, take note class, no, that meron itong mga different cases or scenarios, no. So first is, no, it will be different, no, the computation of your future value is different if you are going to pay, no, or put your money in a single sum or yung tinatawag nating single cash flow. So, ibig sabihin, no, you are going to invest one time, no, big time na payment. So, example, pag meron kang 50,000, so, ininvest mo siya one time, no, single sum lang. Gikaisa ra nimo siya og invest, no. So, that is that first case. So there's a different way of computing, no, your future value if that is the case, na yung single sum siya or single cash flow. On the other hand, iba naman yung proseso, no, or iba naman yung formula pag-compute ng future value kung ang pagbayad mo ay composed of a series of cash flows. So, example natin, yung 50,000, no? Pag sinabi mong series of cash flows, ibig sabihin, binayaran mo in installment. So, yung 50,000 mo, for example, nagbayad ka in the first year, 10,000, no? Or in the next year naman, 10,000. So, depende sa'yo until na mabuo mo yung 50,000 na gusto mong i-invest. Now, still, no, there will be a difference in the computation of the future value kapag equal yung cash flows mo na binigay or kung unequal yung cash flows mo. So, when you say, naunahin na lang natin itong unequal cash flows, no? So, pag sinabing unequal cash flows class, ibig sabihin nun na in our example na 50,000, no, mag-i-invest siya ng 50,000 pero babayaran niya in installment or staggered na basis. So, pag unequal yung cash flow, ibig sabihin, no, hindi uniform yung amount na ibinigay niya para mabuo yung 50,000. So, for example, in the first year, nagbigay siya ng 10,000. In the second year, nagbigay siya ng 15,000. So, in the third year, nagbigay siya ng 15,000. So, magkano na yun? 10, 15, 15, that's 40,000 already. So, pagka fourth year, nagbigay siya ng 5,000. Pagka fifth year, nagbigay din siya ng 5,000. So, nabuo na yung 50,000. But if you're going to observe, no, the cash flows, no, paano ba niya binayaran? So, binayaran niya in staggered, in unequal na cash flow. So, from 10,000 to 15,000 to 15,000 to 5,000 to 5,000. So, magkaiba ang cash flows or ang amount na binigay niya per year. So, that's unequal cash flow. So, there's a different way of computing, no, your future value kung ganun yung case. Now, the other one, kung equal naman yung cash flows, so pag sinabing equal, no, if your intended amount is 50,000, ibig sabihin, every time you pay, you are going to give 10,000 pesos. So, you're going to give 10,000 pesos for 5 periods. So, equal yung cash flows mo. Uniform yung cash flows mo. So, iba din yung computation natin ng future value, no? Kapag yung equal payments mo ay binayad mo at the end of the period or at the end of the year or at the beginning of the period or beginning of the year. So, yung ordinary annuity, this is applicable kapag binayad mo ang investment or nagbayad ka every end or at the end of the year. So, for example, dun sa 50,000 mo na bubuuin, no, na investment, 10,000 every year yung i-deposit mo. So, take note that if the 10,000 is deposited, no, at the end of the year, then the applicable computation would be this ordinary annuity. Whereas, kapag yung 10,000 naman, binayad mo at the beginning of the year, then, ang applicable naman ay annuity due. So, take note, ordinary annuity kapag end of the year siya magbabayad. Annuity due naman ay applicable kapag beginning of the year siya magbabayad. Okay? So, i-discuss natin sila one by one. So, una, itong single cash flow, no? So, what if nag-invest ka and then one time mo lang siya i-invest, no? One time, big time amount yung ibibigay mo or i-deposit mo. So, under the simple interest, this is how you compute future value. So, you have the principal plus, no, your interest. So, that's your interest times the number of periods. Or your PRT, no, your principal times interest rate times the time period. So, this is how you compute your interest. So, your future value under the simple interest is very simple. Now, that is just the principal plus the interest that you earned. Okay? Under the compound interest, ganito naman yung pag-compute ng future value. So that's your present value here. I-multiply natin by 1 plus I raised to the power of n. So take note class, yung n dito should be placed here, no? Dito siya sa factor dapat ma-place. So dito sa no, ang i-raise natin, no, is itong 1 plus I raised to the power of n, no, kung ilang periods man yan. So again, PV is the present value, I is the interest rate, 1 is constant, no? And then N is the number of years or the time period. So let's have an example. So we have here, no? The future values of 1,000 compounded at a 10% annual interest rate at the end of the year, 2 year or at the end of 1 year, 2 years, 5 years are computed as follows. So we have here, so if you're going to substitute the formula, so after year 1, the computation of your future value is this. So you have 1,000, the present value, times 1 constant plus 0.10 or that's 10% converted into decimal raised to the power of 1. So 1 kasi this is your n. No? So 1 year pa man daw. So with that, the computation is or the future value of your 1,000 if invested in 10% interest will be 1,100 after 1 year. So after 2 years naman, so after 2 years, now this is your computation. So 1,000 times 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of 2. Kasi nga after 2 years naman, no? So actually ito na part of the formula, you're actually computing for a future value factor. So in this case, that's 1.21. So yung 1.21 mo na future value factor, i-multiply mo yan sa 1,000, sorry. So you'll have after 2 years, no, or at the end of the second year, ang future value mo ay 1,210. Now, after 5 years naman, so to compute for your future value after 5 years, so you'll have 1,000 times 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of 5. 5 because 5 after 5 years na. No? So this is the future value factor as computed, no, by this formula here sa taas. So times natin sa 1,000. So ang ating future value is 1,610.51. So after 5 years, no, if you have noticed, no, ang itong 1,610.51 that is composed of the 1,000 interest plus ang 610.51 na interest that you have accumulated, no, for 5 years. So overall, no, after 5 years, you have earned you have earned 610 pesos and 51 centavos. Okay. So what about this now? Future value with intra-period compounding. So ano ba yung tinatawag na intra-period? So what do we mean by that, no? Intra-period compounding is a compounding that occurs more than once a year. So example, no, you invested into an investment which will give you um, interest rate na 10% or say for example 12%, but is compounded monthly. So meaning, sa isang taon, 12 times siyang mako-compound kasi monthly man daw. Or, say for example, if the 12% is compounded quarterly, so meaning, every 3 months, magko-compound siya. So, ibig sabihin nun, in a year, there are 4 times, no? Or 4 times mako-compound yung ating interest. Kasi every 3 months, no? Kasi quarterly nga daw. So, kung semi-annual naman, so meaning that is after 6 months, no? Every after 6 months. So, meaning, twice a year magko-compound ang yung interest in a year. Okay? So, kapag ganun, kapag merong intra-period compounding, ito naman yung formula. Now, to compute for your future value, that's present value times 1 plus I, the interest rate, divided by M, the number of compounding period. So, for example, pag monthly, divide 12. Pag quarterly, divide 4. Pag semi-annual, that's divide 2. No? Then, raise to the power of M times N. Pakisulatan na lang dito, dapat meron pang N dito. Especially kapag ang periods, no, or ang term is mag-last siya og more than 1 year. So, para safe na lang, that will be M times N. So, kay kung 1 year lang na, so M, for example, semi-annual, that's 2 times 1 lang mampod, no? So, pero kung maabot na siya 2 years, malahi na yun na siya kasi your M, your 2 times, for example, 2 years, so mahimo na ng 4 dira sa taas. No? So, meaning, kanang imo ang raised to the power of or kanang imong exponent din ha that will represent kung kapila nimo siya i-compound over the term of your investment. Okay? So let's have an example. So we have here, instead of placing 1,000 daw in Atlanta Bank that pays 10% interest annually, the finance manager decides to put the money in National Bank that pays 10% interest compounded semi-annually. So between the two banks, there would be a difference in the future value of your investment after 1 year. So we have here, computing the future value under the Atlanta Bank. Annual yung compounding dito. So yung 1,000 mo, will be multiplied by 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of 1. 1 kasi 1 year lang naman yung term. No, and then, your future value, if that is compounded, annually, after 1 year, yung future value ng 1,000 mo ay 1,100. So, nag-earn siya ng 100 na interest. But take a look of the National Bank na computation. So, dito, this is compounded semi-annually. So, if that's semi-annual compounding, so ito yung resulta. So, yung 1,000 mo, multiply natin by 1 plus 0.10, yung interest, divide 2, meaning how many times are you going to compound your interest in a year. Okay, semi-annual man to siya, so meaning twice a year siya, every after 6 months. So, raised to the power of 2, that's your number of compounding in a year, times your N or your period, your number of years, no? Kapila man, how many years mo siya. So, in this case, 1 year mo siya. Or 1 year ang term ng investment mo. So, if you have noticed, the future value would be 1,102.50. So, it is more or it is greater than yung annual compounding. So, there's a difference of 250, no? Kasi dito, ang interest na ma-earn mo kapag semi-annual yung compounding ay 102 pesos and 50 centavos compared to that kung annual yung compounding na nasa 100 pesos ka lang. So, meaning class, if you are to choose, if you are investing, so it will be wise to choose, an investment that will give you intra-period nga compounding. Kasi it will give you more interest than yung annual compounding lang. So, observe the difference of the two compounding type. It is worth noted that the money will grow faster when it has intra-period compounding than annual compounding only. No? So, take note of that. No? Kung pag mag-invest kayo, dapat, kung merong chance or kung meron kayong option na maging semi-annual or ma-compound siya intra-period or magkaroon ng intra-period compounding, then you go for that investment. Okay? Now we have the concept of nominal interest rate and effective interest rate. So ano bang kaibahan ng nominal interest rate sa effective interest rate? So pag sinabi nating nominal interest rate class, no, it is simply the stated interest rate in the contract. So pag sinabing 10%, so nominal interest rate is 10%. So in short, it's the interest rate that is stated in the agreement. No? So it does not take into consideration yung effect of compounding. Whereas effective interest rate, also called the annual percentage rate or APR, no? This is the true interest rate, and it may differ from the nominal rate depending on the frequency of the compounding. So this APR shall be computed when there is no intra-period compounding. So this is how you compute no APR. So that is 1 plus I over m, or the number of periods compounding, raised to the power of m minus 1. So that's how you compute no the effective interest method or yung APR natin. So this is the sample problem for that. So we have Walney Incorporated deposits money in a bank that pays a 10% nominal interest rate and compounds interest semi-annually. So the nominal interest rate natin ay 10%. Now, if you want to compute for the effective interest rate or the annual percentage rate, so this is how you do it. No? So 1, that's constant, plus 0.10, the nominal interest, divide 2. 2 is the number of times, no? How many times are you going to compound the interest in a year? So since semi-annual man daw ang pagka-compound, so that's every 6 months. So twice a year siya mag-compound. So munang 2 dire sa baba. Then raise to the power of 2. So mareharan na sila, m man puning sa taas. No, or number of periods compound or number of compounding periods, no? Then minus 1. So 1 is constant din. So in that case, no, it turned out that the APR is 10.25%, which is higher compared to the nominal rate of 10%. So therefore, kapag merong intra-period compounding, the nominal rate may not be the same no, with the effective interest rate. And because of the compounding, the intra-period compounding, no, ang epekto niya ay meron kang mas mataas na effective interest rate na compared sa nominal interest rate. So meaning you earned more than what was stated no in your agreement with the bank. Sige, so let's proceed to the second no type of or the second case or scenario. What if no series naman yung cash flows, yung binayaran niya in installment, no? So pag installment no or staggered yung pagbayad niya or ang pag-deposit niya ng amount. So dalawa lang 'yan, 'di ba? It could be unequal yung cash flow, no? Hindi uniform yung dineposit niyang amount or equal siya or uniform siya. So unahin na muna natin itong unequal yung cash flows niya. So when computing the future value of money with unequal cash flows, you have to get the future value of each cash flow, then sum up all the future values computed from each cash flow. So actually this is the formula, no? It's the future value of n is equivalent to the summation of the present value or the principal times I plus or 1 plus I raised to the power of n minus t. Na? So, T here is equivalent to 0. Na? Mag-start ka with year 0. Okay? So, simply saying, parang ganito lang, no? Ang pag-compute ng ating future value kapag unequal yung cash flow ay gagamit ka rin ng formula noong future value, no, na compounding. Except that dito, meron kang, no, magdeduct ka ng time, no, or unsa naman nga period ni siya. Sige, I'll explain it later, no, para mas masabtan siya. So, the total future value of all cash flows will be the future value of your cash flow received in year 0 plus the future value of the amount that you received in year 1, in year 2, in year 3, year 4, and so on and so forth. Okay? Sige. So, let's have the example and then balikan lang natin itong illustration or yung diagram later para mas masabdan siya. So, we have here, no, in your example, the firm has deposit 2,000 today and 1,500 1 year from now at Mount Carmel Rural Bank. So there's no future deposits or withdrawal or need, and the bank pays 10% interest compounded annually. So paano natin i-compute no yung future value daw at the end of 4 years? So this is the solution, no? So take note, 2,000 is received today. So, yung na-receive mo today, today is year 0, no? Your base year. 0 yan, no? So, since base 0 or year 0 siya, so your 2,000 will be multiplied by, this is just a substitution of the formula, no? This is 1 plus 0.10 for the interest rate raised to the power of n minus t. So, n natin is 4 years man daw yung term. So, n is 4, then minus t. So, yung t natin, kasi today man daw, ngayon siya nag-deposit, so that is year 0. So, 4 minus 0, of course, is 4. So, the future value of the amount that you receive today, so after 4 years niya, so ito yung computation, 2,000 times 1.464, no, the future value factor. So, the amount is 2,928. So, ibig sabihin, yung 2,000 mo invested today will become 2,928 after 4 years. Okay? So, if you're going to relate this no, doon sa diagram para mas maklaro na to, so ani, no? So, example, no, dili ta naghatag og 2,000 pesos. So, dito tayo sa T0 nagbigay ng 2,000 pesos. So, if you're going to count no, the number of years from this date until the term, no, yung sabi natin, 4 years daw yung term ng deposit na to. After 4 years niya pa daw kukunin. So, hanggang T4 yan. So, if you're going to look at it, no, from here, dito tayo nag-deposit ng 2,000, it would take 4 years pa. No? So, that's period 1, 2, 3, 4. So, 4 years pa nato no, i-bili ng atong kwarta sa bangko. Nakatong 2,000 for 4 years pa. No, 4 years pa siya i-deposit dito sa bangko nga dili nimo siya hilabtan. Okay? So, try to check this here, no, the formula here. So, kapag nag-invest ka dito or nag-deposit ka dito sa 0, year 0, the time period na 0, so this is how you compute your future value. That's PV, that's 2,000, times 1, that's constant, plus I, that's 10% or 0.10, raised to the power of n. Our n is 4. No, in our illustration dito, 4 siya. So, since this is 4, no, 4 yan, n natin is 4, minus t. So, t natin ay 0. So, that's why the formula again, no, is substituted as 2,000 times 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of 4 kasi nga, ang t natin ay 0. Okay, I hope you understand that, no? Now, yung second, no, yung after 1 year na 1,500. So, itong 1,500, dineposit yan sa bank after 1 year. So, paano kinompute ang kanyang future value? So, that's 1,500 times 1 plus I raised to the power of n minus t. So, n natin ay 4. So, ang t natin ay 1. Kasi after 1 year man. So, therefore, 3 na lang ang mabilin. So, 4 minus 1 equals 3. So, this is the future value factor, no, of your um, of the this is the future value factor, no? Kapag kinompound mo siya for 3 years, na 1.331. So, i-multiply lang natin by sa 1,500. So, ito na yung magiging future value ng iyong 1,500, no? Pagdating ng or at the end of the 4 years or yung term ng iyong deposit. Okay? So, paano yon ginawa? Balikan natin ulit yung ating diagram. So, again, no? So, dito ka nag-invest ng 1,500. So, meaning, it's 1 year after na, no? You have deposited 2,000. So, ganito yung pag-compute mo ng future value niya. So, that's PV times 1 plus I raised to the power of n minus 1. No? So, that's 4 minus 1. So, that's 3. Or, pwede rin, no? Para ma-picture out ninyo, anong 3 man? So, take note that, di ba, from the time that you invested or you deposited 1,500, it will take na lang 3 years, no? Hantod mo abot ang ato ang ginapaabot nga term, which is katong sa 4th year. So, kung atong i-count na siya, dili man tatama, no? 4 years after man daw. So, that's, dili ka naghatag og 1,500, that is 1, 2, and 3. So, 3 years na lang siya mo earned og interest. Kay, after 1 year pa man mo siya gi-deposit. Okay, so I hope again that that's clear. So, ibig sabihin, no, if ganito yung setup mo, nagbigay ka ng 2,000 today, and then 1,500 year after, tapos 10% yung interest compounded annually, no, yung investment mo na to after 4 years will become 4,924.51. No? So, that will be your future value composed of your principal na 3,500 plus yung na-earn mo na interest. So, itidak mo lang, no? Para makuha mo yung total interest na na-earn mo for 4 years, that is just 4,924.50 minus the principal mo na dalawa na yung 2,000 tsaka yung 1,500. So, yan yung total interest na iyong na-earn, no, for this investment after 4 years. Now, considering that you pay amounts which are unequal and at different, no, different periods. So, kung i-compute natin, 4,924.50 minus 3,500, yung total amount lang talaga na dineposit mo. So, meron kang 1,424.50 na interest na ma-earn after 4 years. Okay? So, this time, what if equal naman yung cash flows? So, what if equal ang cash flows? Paano natin i-compute ang ating future value? So, kapag equal ang cash flows, no? So, ang tawag doon sa uniform, no, na cash na dineposit mo or binayad mo is annuity. So, sometimes it is called fixed annuity. So, it is a stream of equal payments made at, take note, regular time intervals. Okay? So, di ba dalawa to? It could be ordinary annuity or annuity due. So, unahin natin yung ordinary annuity. So, pag ordinary annuity, it is in which, no, payments or receipts occur at the end of each period. So, this type of annuity is called regular or deferred annuity. So, dun sa example natin kanina na 50,000, no, magbabayad siya ng 50,000 daw for in the next 5 years. So, ibig sabihin, um, say for example, nag-follow ng calendar year, no? So, from January to December 31. So, your year 1, for example, is January 1 to December 31. So, if that's ordinary annuity, and kung nag-pledge siya ng 10,000 pesos, no, na annual payment or your annuity, so ibig sabihin, no, para ma-qualify siya diri sa ordinary annuity, yung 10,000 niya, dapat i-deposit niya at the end of the year or at the end of each period. In our example, December 31. No? So, end of the period man siya. So, para mo apply ning ordinary annuity na concept. So, how to compute for the future value? Ito yung formula natin. So, future value is equivalent to A or annuity times unsa ni 1 plus I raised to the power of n minus 1 over I. So, again, kani siya diri dapita na part sa formula, you're actually computing for the future value factor. Okay? So, let's have an example. So, here, no? Diamond Corporation deposits 1,000 at the end of each 3 consecutive years in a bank account paying 10% interest compounded annually. So the value of the account at the end of the third year is computed by, so ito yung diagram, no? So ito yung diagram kung ano yung timing ng kanyang pagbayad ng 1,000. So here, nag-start siya year 0. So 1, 2, 3. So kasi sabi niya dito, magbabayad daw siya ng 1,000 every or at the end of each no period. So dito siya nagbayad. So at the end of each period. So dito mag-count ka ng 1, 2, and 3 dyan. Okay? So, ano yung solution natin? How do we compute? So, we have here 1,000, yung annuity mo, yung uniform payments mo, times 1 plus 0.10, yung 10% interest, raised to the power of n. So, that's 3, kasi 3 years man daw, minus 1, that is constant. So, i-divide natin by 0.10, no, or your interest rate. So, the factor, the future value factor is 3.310. So, yung 1,000 mo, or yung 1,000 na dineposit mo every year for 3 years, magiging 3,310 pesos at the end of the third year. So, kung titingnan natin, meron tayong interest na na-earn, no, na 310 pesos. No? Bakit 310 pesos? Kasi, di ba, this is your future value, 3,310. So, kung i-deduct natin yung lahat ng na-deposit natin, that's 3,000. So, therefore, may sobra kang 310, which represents your interest earned, no, for this particular investment. Okay, so we have here the second example, second no, na concept, which is the annuity due. So in this concept naman, no, future value, applicable ito no, in computing future value kapag no, ang payments or receipts occur at the beginning of each period. So, kung kanina sa ordinary annuity, ang payment occurred no, at the end of the period, ito naman, beginning of each period naman. So, kung ang time is ang period covered ay na isang taon ay January 1 until December 31. So, ibig sabihin, nagbayad siya agad, no? Sa January 1 pa lang. Okay? So, this is the formula to compute the future value. That's A, or annuity, times 1 plus I raised to the power of n minus 1 over I times 1 plus I. So, that's your formula for the annuity due. So, parang advance siya, no? So, this is the sample. So, we have here a sample problem. So, the firm makes annual deposit of 1,000 each year, now starting at the beginning of each year. Interest is compounded at 10%. How much of the firm have in account after 3 years? So, kung titingnan natin, parang the same lang ito doon sa previous na example, doon sa ordinary annuity. Except that this time, no, ang bababayad siya at the beginning of the year. So, example, kung this year siya nag-start, so magbayad siya agad, no? Pag start niya, magbayad siya agad ng 1,000. So, and for the next 3 years. So, we'll have this diagram. So, sa year 0 pa lang, nagbayad na siya ng 1,000. Year 1, 1,000 ulit. Year 2, 1,000 ulit. So, sa year 3, wala na. Mag-wait na lang siya, no? Na mature na ang kanyang dineposit. So, this is the solution. So, you have 1,000 times 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of 3. That's your n. Minus 1 divided by 0.10. And then, times 1 plus 0.10. So, if you're going to get the kanisya nga formula dere, that's 3.310. And again, this is your future value factor, no? And then, for that 1.1% or 1.1 or 1.10. So, you just multiply those three amounts. So, you will get 3,641. So, compare nga natin doon sa ordinary annuity. So, kanina, no, same lang din na 1,000 yung binayad for 3 years except that eto nagbayad siya at the end of the period. So, ang interest, ang future value niya ay 3,310. So, nag-interest lang siya ng 310. But, under the annuity due, yung nag-advance siya og bayad, no? Pag sugod pa lang ni bayad siya dayon, so, money siya ang iyang dagway. So, mas dako, no? Ang iyang interest kay ang iyang future value niabot man og 3,641. Na as compared to ordinary annuity nga 3,310 lang. So, nakaginansya siya diri, naka-interest siya of 641. Again, this is higher, no? Mas dako siya compared sa annuity or ordinary annuity. So, again, class, no? Mas maigi pa lang mag-deposit ka agad, no? Start deposit ka at the beginning of the period para mas malaki yung interest na ma-earn mo. So, that's our takeaway, no, for this lesson. If you compare, ano bang mas maigi, no? Are we going to deposit it at the beginning of each year or at the end of each year? So, based on the illustration, we will know that mas maganda kung mag-deposit ka at the beginning of the year para mas malaki yung interest na kikitain mo. Okay? So, tapos na tayo sa future value concept. Let us now proceed to present value. So, what about this present value concept, no? So, dito, no, present value is the current value of future amount of money or series of payments evaluated at an appropriate discount rate. So, kung kanina sa future value, we're trying to project, no, kung magkano ang amount na aabutin ng binayad natin ngayon. So, ito naman, we want to know kung yung magkano ba ang value ng amount na marireceive natin in the future ngayon. Meaning, magkano ba ang value ngayon ng amount na marireceive natin in the future. And as we know, no, based on the concept of time value of money, no, ang pera nga na matatanggap mo for some future dates pa ay ang value niya ngayon mas maliit, no? So, mas ano siya, parang if you receive 10,000 now, that is more, no? The 10,000 that you receive now will be more of value, no? Ang worth niya ay mas malaki compared doon sa mare-receive mo na 10,000 in the future pa. No? So, mas malaki yung na-receive mo na ngayon kaysa sa doon sa mare-receive mo pa in the future. So, that's the concept, no, ng present value. You want to know kung yung amount ba na mare-receive mo in the future, magkano ba ang worth niya kung ngayon mo siya natanggap. So, under the present value concept, ganun din, no? Similar to your future value na computation, na ang pag-compute ng present value ay magdedepende din kung single sum mo ba siya, no, dineposit or binayaran, or kung series of cash flows mo ba siya, installment mo ba siya, binayaran. So, kung series of cash flows siya, so ganun din, pwedeng equal siya or unequal. So, iba ang pagka-compute, no, ng present value pag unequal, iba din kapag equal. So, same concept applies, no, na iba din yung competition pag ordinary annuity, no, yung nagbayad at the end, or kung annuity due, yung nagbayad at the beginning of the period. Okay. So, when we compute the present value class, no, we will use the discount rate. So, the present value determination discounts money that will be received in the future back in time to see what it is worth in the present. So, the process of determining the present value is called discounting. So, yun na, no? Gusto nating malaman na, example, may matatanggap tayo na 10,000 next year. So, we want to know, magkano ba ang value niyan, no? Kung ngayon ko siya natanggap. So, most probably, no, yung 10,000 mo na matatanggap mo in the future pa is not worth 10,000 ngayon, no, during this period. So, you want to know how much that would be para mas ma-evaluate mo yung investment. Like, for example, bibigyan ka ng 10,000 after 1 year. Tapos, pagbabayarin ka ng, say, for example, 9,500 ngayon. So, magko-compute ka, no, given a discount rate, magko-compute ka, is it worth to pay 9,500 now, no, if you'll be receiving 10,000 in the future. So, again, in that way, you can assess, no, whether your investment is worthy or not. Na? So, pwedeng ganun yung gamit mo dito sa discounting or pag-compute ng present value. Okay, so just to give us a picture, no, kung ano ba yung present value. So, example dito, no, time today, time zero. So, you want to know, no, meron kang expected amount na matatanggap in the future date. So, for example, time 1, no, or after 1 year. So, you want to know, magkano ba ang value nitong matatanggap mo after 1 year kung natanggap mo siya ngayon. So, yan yung present value, no? Yan yung gamit ng present value. Okay, so let's start with the single cash flow. So, ano ba or how do we compute for the present value kapag one time na big time yung payment? So, example, na present value is, or here, no, the present value is computed as future value naman times 1 plus I raised to the power of, take note, negative n. So, yan yung formula natin pag-compute sa present value. So, take note dito ha, ang gamit natin ay future value. Magkano nga ba yung matatanggap mo na in-expect mo, no, in the future? So, let's have the example. So, you have Denmark company expects to receive 1,100 1 year from now. So what is the present value of this amount if the discount rate is 10%? Okay, so to get the present value, so I have the future amount is 1,100. So i-multiply natin by 1 plus 0.10, the interest rate, raised to the power of negative 1 kasi 1 year lang naman. So with that, no, we can compute no, that our present value of the 1,100 is 1,000. No? Kung ngayon mo siya natanggap, ang kanyang present value ay 1,000. Okay, so for example, 1 year. So again, so yung example natin, no, what if, no, sabi mo, bibigyan ka ng 1,100 in the future after 1 year, tapos pagbabayarin ka ng 1,020. So, kung ganun yung offer sa'yo, you would say no. Bakit? Kasi pag compute mo, given ang discount rate is 10%, no? So, pag compute mo ay ang worth lang naman ng 1,100 na matatanggap ko after 1 year is 1,000 pesos na lang man. So, nga mo bayad man kag 1,020. So, alkansi ka og 20 pesos. No? So, ang ana, no? Unless you're willing to pay higher no, na discount rate as compared to 10%. So, kung kana ang offer sa imo, you would say no. Because alam mo that yung 1,100 na kung i-discount siya at 10% is only worth 1,000 today. Tapos pagbabayaran ka ng 1,020. So, wag na, no? So, that's how you use this present value na concept. In terms of course, evaluating your investment. So, next we have this, no? Katong series of cash flows naman. So, what if series of cash flows, no? Hindi one time yung pagbayad, no? Or bibigyan ka ng tinatawag na annuity, no? So, ang balik sa'yo ay installment, no? So, for unequal cash flows, to compute the present value of series unequal cash flows, simply calculate the present value of each cash flows, no, based on the future amounts. So, this is the formula, no, the the present value at year 0 plus the present value of the amount that you receive sa period 1 plus the present value of the amount that you receive in period 2 plus the present value of the amount that you receive in period 3 and so on and so forth. So, ang ana siya. So, let's have the illustration and then let's just go back here, no, in this illustration or in this diagram para mas masabtan. So, here, DM company expects to receive payments of 1,000, 1,500, and 2,000 at the end of first, second, and third year respectively. So, compute the present value using 10% discount rate. Okay? So, ito yung solution niya, no? 1,000 times 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of negative 1. Kasi nga, matatanggap mo at the end of the first year. Yung 1,500, matatanggap mo siya at the end of the second year. So, yung computation mo, 1,500 times 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of negative 2. And then lastly, yung 2,000 matatanggap mo at the end of the third year. So, that's 2,000 times 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of negative 3. So, ito yung mga present value factors nila. So, yung 1,000 na matatanggap mo after 1 year is worth 909 today. Yung 1,500 na matatanggap mo 2 years after, no, or in the second year, at the end of the second year, is worth 1,239 today, no? And lastly, yung 2,000 na matatanggap mo at the end of the third year is only worth 1,502 if you receive it today. So the total present value is 3,650. Na? So kung atong balikan dire sa diagram, so diba this is your time 0, at the end of year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and so on and so forth. Now, in our example, sabi niya, yung 1,000, matatanggap mo siya at the end of, at the end of the first year. So, diri siya sa T1. So, on T1, the formula is this one. So, to compute for the present value, that's future value times 1 plus I raised to the power of negative 1. Kasi period 1 man na siya. No? Katong 1,500, diri po siya sa T2. Madawatan nimo at the end of second year. So, yung formula mo upod ni. Your future value times 1 plus I raised to the power of negative 2. Kasi nga, yung n mo ay 2, no? And then, lastly, yung sa third year, yung sa 2,000, matatanggap mo siya after 3 years. So, this is your formula. Future value of 2,000 times 1 plus I raised to the power of negative 3. So, again, itong mga matatanggap mo, no, 1,000, 1,500, 3,000, kung susumahin mo, di ba, kung imong i-sum up, that's 1,000 plus 1,500, that's 2,500, plus 2,000, that's actually a total of 4,500, no, na total na matatanggap mo in the future. But if you're going to compute its present value, it is only worth 3,650 today. So, kung ngayon mo siya, no, what if madawat, pili worth ato nilang mga amount na to, nga madawat nimo in the future, kung imong basihan karon. So, kung karon nimo siya nadawat, ang iyang worth is only 3,650 lang. No, I hope you get it right. No, I hope you understand it well. Okay? So, that is kapag unequal yung ating cash flows. Now, let's proceed doon sa what if equal naman yung cash flows. So, kapag equal yung cash flows, no, sa dalawa rin, diba? It's either ordinary annuity or annuity due. So, kapag nagbayad, no, or ang bayad ay ginawa, no, yung payments or receipts na occur at the end of each period, then itong ordinary annuity yung applicable. So, paano ba i-compute yung present value, no, using ordinary annuity? So, that's present value is equivalent to the annuity, no, yung matatanggap mo in the future, times 1 minus 1 plus I raised to the power of negative n divided by I. No? So, this is how you compute your present value. So, take note, class, that this computation here is actually computing for your present value factor. Okay? So, let's have an example. So, you have Cat Corporation expects to receive 1,000 at the end or at year end or year's end for the next 3 years. So, meaning year end siya magbayad or makadawat og 1,000. So, for the next 3 years. So, the present value of this annuity discounted at 10% is computed as follows. So, you have 1,000. So, we just substitute the formula. So, that's 1,000 times 1 minus 1 plus I or 10% or 0.10 raised to the power of negative n minus I or 10%. So, the factor is, or the present value factor is 2.487. So, multiply natin by 1,000. So, that's 2,487. Okay? So, di ba kung titingnan natin, ang marireceive natin in the next 3 years ay 3,000 kasi 1,000 each year. Kaso lang, when we are going to discount it, no, kung compute natin kung magkano yung present value niya, it is worth only 2,487 today. No, so, take note that ordinary annuity has equal cash flows and happened at every year end only. So, again, for ordinary annuity to apply, dapat yung payment or yung receipt, no, yung cash receipts ay nangyari at the end of the year. So otherwise, this formula cannot be used to compute present value if the cash flows are not also equal. So take note ha, two things to remember for this formula to apply. Una, na dapat equal yung cash flows na matatanggap. Second is dapat natanggap mo yung amount no or at the end of the year. Otherwise, hindi mag-a-apply ang formula na to. Okay? So next, let's have letter B. This one naman is annuity due. So for annuity due, sasabi natin kanina, no, the same lang yung concept. This is yung payments or receipts occur at the beginning of each period. No? So ito advance mong na-receive. So na-receive mo agad. No? So how do we compute present value? So that's annuity times 1 minus 1 plus I raised to the power of negative n minus 1 divided by I and then plus 1. So again, this one, ito siya dito. Itong computation na to is actually you're computing for the present value factor. No? So let's try it in a problem. So here, the same information dun sa example, previous example, except that the annual cash flow happens at the beginning of each year. So ganun din, 1,000 yung matatanggap every year, kaso lang ngayon, matatanggap mo siya at the beginning of the year. No? So you have to substitute the formula. So you have 1,000 no, times 1 minus 1 plus 0.10 raised to the power of n minus 1. So, magiging 2 na lang ito. Divided by 0.10 or your I. Then, plus 1. So, yung result nitong computation na to ay ito. 2.7356. So, that is your present value factor no, for ordinary annuity. Or sorry, for annuity due. Annuity due na pala tayo. No? So, your present value is 2,375.60. So, let's try to compare. No? Ito yung nagbayad or natanggap mo at the beginning of the year. No? That's 2,375.60. So, tandaan natin. So, i-compare natin doon sa natanggap mo at the end of the year. Asan ang mas malaki? Okay. This is only 2,487. Asa yung mas dako? This is 2,375. Okay. Now, mas dako tong, asa mas dako? Mas dako og value tong, so mas dako dig value tong nadawat nimo at the end of each year, na compared aning beginning of the year. Okay? Sige. So, let's proceed. Okay, what about this? The present value of perpetuity. So, ano siya pasabot sa perpetuity? It is an annuity with indefinite or infinite life. That is, the payments continue indefinitely. So, example, makadawat ka og 1,000, wala ka kabaluhan tod kanus ka makadawat og 1,000, hantod kanus sa taman ka no makadawat og 1,000. So, this is how you compute for the present value of that. No? So, the present value of a perpetuity is just computed as annuity divided the discount rate. So, ganun lang kasimple. So, let's have an example. So, you have big corporation wants to deposit an amount of money in a bank account that will allow it to withdraw 1,000 indefinitely at the end of each year without reducing the amount of initial deposit. So, if a bank guarantees to pay the firm 10% interest on deposits, then the amount of money the firm has to deposit is computed as follows. So, meaning, here, gusto siya makabalo kung pila may dapat i-deposit niya para kada tuig, no, makakuha siya og 1,000 without depleting the interest or the principal, no, the initial deposit nga iyang butang sa bangko. Okay? So again, no, in this case, dapat para maka-withdraw siya og 1,000 indefinitely in the future, if the interest rate na ihatag no sa bangko is 10%, dapat mo deposit siya og 10,000 karon, no? So that mo deposit siya og 10,000 karon para after 1 year, pwede na siya mo withdraw og 1,000 without depleting or without reducing the amount that they initially deposited, no? Okay, so reminder. So in the present or future value problems, unless stated otherwise, the cash flow is assumed to be at year-end. So pag hindi sinabi na kailan natanggap yung pera or binayad yung pera, then we assume that it happened at the end of the year. In present value calculation, take note no, that the higher the discount rate or the longer the time, the smaller would be the present value. Okay? So I hope no you have understand no, the concepts that I discussed. If you still have questions no, to ask, please feel free no, to ask it no ask me during our Zoom session. Okay? So this is the end and thank you very much for listening class. No, so I'll see you in the Zoom class. Bye.